Good morning. It's been a long time since, gosh, 2 weeks seems like forever, doesn't it? Anyways, good morning. It's Friday, it's 10 a.m. It's time for Lit Lattes. I'm Ariel, the public services librarian here at Huntington Memorial Library, almost at SUNY Oneonta. That's how my Friday morning's going. Hope yours is going splendid too. I will blame it on the fact that it's Friday the 13th in the year 2020. So hopefully I'm speaking very quietly, so let's get it together. We have quite a few new books to talk about today. So let's just jump right into them. Um, I'm I've decided that new arrivals are just books that I'm like, these are interesting. I want to tell people about them. So the first one we have for today is, never want you to see glare on these very nice covers. So hopefully this works out all right. So this is The Alpha Enigma by W. Michael Gear. Dr. Timothy Ryan, head of the military psychiatric unit at Grantham Barracks, is meeting a new patient, a woman known as Prisoner Alpha. As she is being transferred, they are attacked by assassins. Of course they are, barely escaping with their lives. One shooter vanishes, leaving behind a dead companion unlike anyone Ryan has ever seen. But even more baffling is the puzzle of Alpha herself. She speaks in a strange tongue and doodles in bars, dots, and little pictures like nothing Ryan has ever seen. Is she some sort of savant or the most cunning spy he's ever met? As dark forces gather, Alpha makes it impossible to escape from Grantham. Ryan quickly becomes the prime suspect in her disappearance, but with a team of unique allies set out to prove his innocence. Together, they must find Alpha and save Ryan before it's too late. Apparently, there's like a side story in Egypt, but that sounded really confusing and would explain this guy on the cover. But yeah, pick it up. It sounds really good. The next one is a White Ivy. I'm actually shocked that this is still on our shelves. It's part of the Read with Jenna book club. I think that's Jenna Bush. But yeah, so this sounded really interesting as well. Obviously, this one is by Susie Yang. And Ivy Lynn is a thief and a liar, and you'd never know it by looking at her. Raised outside of Boston, she is taught how to pilfer items from yard sales and secondhand shops by her immigrant grandmother. But when Ivy's mother discovers her trespasses, punishment is swift and Ivy is sent to China, where her dream instantly evaporates. Years later, Ivy has grown into a poised, yet restless young woman haunted by her conflicting feelings about her upbringing and her family. Back in Boston, she bumps into Sylvia Spire, who's Gideon's sister. She was very interested in Gideon before she was sent to China, and they reconnect. So Ivy sinks her claws into Gideon and the entire Speyer clan by attending fancy dinners and weekend getaways to the Cape. Honestly, I would die for that right now. But just as Ivy is about to have everything she's ever wanted, a ghost from her past resurfaces, threatening her nearly perfect life she's worked so hard to build. Neat. Um, I'm really excited about this book, and I might steal it and try to read it all weekend. Not steal it, you know. This is The Residence by Andrew Piper. The year is 1853. President-elect Franklin Pierce is traveling with his family to Washington, D.C. when tragedy strikes. In an instant, their train runs off the trails, violently flinging passengers about the cabin. But when the great iron machine finally comes to rest, the only casualty in the president-elect's um, cabin is his beloved son, Benny, which casts Franklin's presidency in a pale of sorrow and grief. As Franklin moves into the White House, he starts to notice that something bizarre is happening. Strange sounds coming from the walls and ceiling, creepy voices that seem to echo out of time itself, and visions of spirits crushing under the weight of American history. But when First Lady Jane Pierce brings in the most noted spiritualists of the day, the Fox sisters, look them up if you haven't. They are very interesting. So she hires them to do a seance. The barrier between this world and the next is torn asunder. Something horrible comes through and takes up residence alongside Franklin and Jane in the walls of the very mansion itself. Only by overcoming their grief and comforting their darkest secrets can Jane and Franklin hope to rid themselves and America from the entity that seeks to make the White House its permanent home. So this book is based on a semi-true, well, it is a true story. Mary Todd Lincoln had a seance in the White House after her and Abraham's son passed away. So that is the basis of this story, and it sounds so interesting. The next book is a novella and stories. We love a good novella. It's The Office of Historical Corrections. This is by Danielle Evans. And she is widely acclaimed for her blistering smart voice and X-ray insights into complex human relationships. With the Office of Historical Corrections, Evans zooms in on particular moments and relationships in her characters' lives in a way that allows them to speak to larger issues of race, culture, and history. She introduces us to Black and multiracial characters who are experiencing the universal confusion of lust and love and getting walloped by grief, all while exploring how history haunts us personally and collectively. Ultimately, she provokes us to think about the truths of American history, about who gets to tell them, and the cost of setting the record straight. I love the cover of this next book, and I love that it is small. It is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Philyaw, and explores the raw and tender places where Black women and girls dare to follow their desires and pursue a momentary reprieve from being good. The 9 stories in this collection feature 4 generations of characters grappling with who they want to be in the world, caught as they are between the church's double standards and their own needs and passions. There is 14-year-old Jayla, who has a crush on the preacher's wife. At 42, Lyra realizes that her discomfort with her own body stands between her and a new love. As Y2K looms, Corletta, same time next year, arrangements with her childhood best friend is tenuous. A serial mistress lays down the ground rules for her married lovers. In the dark shadows of a hospice parking lot, grieving strangers find comfort in each other. With their secret longings, new love, and forbidding affairs, these church ladies are as seductive as they want to be, as vulnerable as they need to be, and as unfaithful and unrepentant as they care to be, and as free as they deserve to be. That's good. Good. Read that one too. It'll be a quick, good read. I was telling Bridget that I'm going to keep saying this is the Kinder Poison, but it's the Kinder Poison, and it's by Natalie May. This is a young adult book that I just see every day when I'm in here. I was like, maybe I'll talk about this. Right. So Zaru has long dreamed of leaving the kingdom of Orkina and having the kinds of adventures she's only ever heard about in stories. But as a lowly whisperer, her power to commune with animals means that her place is serving in the royal stables until the day her magic runs dry. All that changes when the ailing ruler invokes the Crossing, a death-defying race across the desert in which the first of his heirs to finish and take the life of a human sacrifice at the journey's end will ascend to the throne. With all of the kingdom abuzz, Zaru leaps at the chance to change her fate, if just for a night, by sneaking into the palace for a taste of the revelry. But the minor indiscretion turns into a deadly mistake when she gets caught up in a feud between the heirs and is forced to become the crossing's human sacrifice. Now Zaru's only hope for survival hinges on the impossible, somehow figuring out how to overcome the most dangerous people in the world. Yikes. I grabbed just 2 nonfiction books this week. This one was recommended, I do believe, was this you recommended this? Neat. So, Bridget said to buy this, so I bought it. It's called They Can't Kill Us All by Wesley Lowery. He is a Washington Post writer, and he traveled to Ferguson, Missouri, Cleveland, Ohio, Charleston, South Carolina, and Baltimore, and then back to Ferguson to uncover life inside the most heavily policed, if otherwise neglected, corners of America today. In an effort to grasp the magnitude of the response to Michael Brown's death and understand the scale of the problem police violence represents, Lowery speaks to Brown's family and the families of other victims, as well as local activists, by posing the question, what does the loss of any one life mean to the rest of the nation? Lowery examines the cumulative effect of decades of racial bias policing in segregated neighborhoods with failing schools, crumbling infrastructure, and too few jobs. The last one is by Ezra Klein, and it's called Why We're Polarized, and it reveals the structure and psychological, I wish I could read today, that would be so wonderful, psychological forces behind America's descent into division and dysfunction. Neither a polemic nor a lament, this book offers a clear framework for understanding everything from Trump's rise to the Democratic Party's leftward shift to the polarization of everyday culture. Klein shows how and why American politics polarized around identity in the 20th century and what that polarization did to the way we see the world and one another. He also traces the feedback loop between polarized political identities and polarized political institutions that are driving our system towards crisis. I'm glad I ended these on super fun notes, but they're still very important books, so please stop by and these up from the shelves. Because we were off last week, I read a couple of books, so I have 3 that I finished. I read my first Anne Patchett book. Yay me! I kept seeing people take The Dutch House out, and I was like, And I've, of course, heard that she's a pretty good writer. So I listened to Commonwealth, which is about a very interesting family. Basically, kids being shuttled from one side of the country to the other and just dealing with family dynamics that are slightly dysfunctional. It was really good, and so I would highly recommend that. I just finished The Shadows by Alex North this morning. That was pretty good. I don't think I was in the mood to listen to the story, so probably right now I'd only give it like 3 stars. But it is about this guy Paul, and it goes back and forth between a 25 year time span, and some of his friends murder another friend, and the Red Hand Man did it. It was very kind of like Slender Man-esque, if you are familiar with that. But it was okay. The book I read that I loved so much, and I told everyone who would listen to me to read it, is called Nothing to See Here. It's very short. I would say it's maybe 250 pages. It was 6 hours to listen to. I am obsessed with it. And as soon as I finished it, I wanted to listen to it again. It is about two women who met in boarding school. One was super rich, and the other one was there on a scholarship. And so the rich girl, her name is Madison, gets into trouble, and her dad pays Lillian's mom, it was Lillian, um, for her to take the fall for it so Madison can stay in school. So they stay in touch, and basically Jillian's life is ruined because she can't get into any other good school. So she's just working at two supermarkets. And Madison's like, hey, come visit me. I have a job for you. And so the job turns out to be she is going to be a nanny for her husband's well, it's her stepkids. But there's a little bit of a catch. Whenever the kids get really angry or upset, they catch on fire. So it's a super heartwarming story. It's very funny. I laughed out loud several times. And it has a really good ending, and I love it so much. So we have it in the library. Come get it. Love it so much. Right. Wow, this is going to be a super short episode today, and that's totally fine. It's Friday the 13th. We just need to get everything done with today and just move on with our lives. So as most of you know, and if you don't know, I have something exciting to tell you. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree was cut down, tied to a truck yesterday, and I got to see it. So that was super fun. Maybe we'll post some of the pictures because one of our clerks saw it too and has a not fun story about traffic during yesterday's chaos on Route 23 in West Oneonta. But yeah, so that was fun. And so we decided to just give you a little history about the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. The first one was 1933. It was only 50 feet tall. The tallest one was 100 feet, and it came from Connecticut. I think since 1984, and most of the other trees from the following year have been Norway spruces. Apparently they get super big. The one that came the furthest away was from Richfield, Ohio, and that's the only time that the tree was flown to New York City to be set up. Other than that, it's usually a truck comes and gets it. I was very interested in how do they pick the tree, and it turns out that the head gardener at Rockefeller Center will scout for it, but oftentimes trees are submitted for consideration. And there's like a whole long checklist. Basically, it just needs to be super tall and be able to hold all the ornaments that go on it. Right. I feel like there were a ton of more fun things I wanted to say. I didn't know this, but since 1999, the lighting ceremony has been broadcasted on NBC. I think like we all know that, but I thought they've always done it. I didn't realize it was rather recently that they started airing it. Usually, the tree is the last part of the whole program where it gets lit up. Once it gets to Rockefeller Center, the tree is supported by 4 guy wires attached at its midpoint and by a steel spike at its base. And scaffolding is erected around the tree to assist workers in hanging about 50,000 multicolored LED lights and the star atop. There's a new Swarovski crystal, which is now the new crystal star that was introduced in 2018, and it was designed by Daniel Liebeskind. Mm-mm-mm. The LED lights, I think, are relatively new. I think they were introduced in, 2007. And the first tree was erected in 1930, 31, where the workers for Rockefeller Center decorated a small 20-foot balsam fir with strings of cranberries, garlands of paper, and even a few tin cans. And that was done on Christmas Eve of that year. Um, the first official tree came 2 years later, and the tree became what Rockefeller Center dubbed a holiday beacon for New Yorkers and visitors alike, and a skating rink was opened below the tree in the plaza in 1936. So that's kind of fun. Look at the Wikipedia page. It's a very interesting. And I think I looked at all the towns, and Oneonta is the only city where the tree has come from twice. So obviously this year, and then 2016. Apparently we go really good trees here. All right. Oh, I also wanted to tell you about like more book recommendations and like way to get your hands on that. So on our website, hmloneonta.org, right on our homepage, you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says e-news. You'll click on that, and then it's going to give you a ton of categories to choose from for book recommendations. So we have armchair travel, audiobooks, biography and memoirs, mystery. You can click for New York Times bestsellers for fiction or nonfiction, romance, children's books, thrillers. There's lots and lots of things. And if you aren't already getting our HML Happenings newsletter, you can also sign up for that on there as well to hear all the fun things that we're doing at the library. Not at the library, but you know, things that we're doing. So, I think that's all. Bridget, did I miss anything? Hooray! Everyone have a great weekend. Come see us, grab some books. See you soon. Bye.